Hello folks, welcome to Canale Channel Jose. Today we're going to show you what's oil change on a Toyota Camry. And most of you are knowledgeable at this, and some people are just having questions about what's oil change or how to change the oil on a Toyota Camry. This is for a 2010 Toyota Camry. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be replacing, I lifted the car, I put the jack stand, secure it, so I got a space below so I can. So we lifted the car. We're gonna put the oil pan in there, take the drain point of the engine, drain all the oil, and then take the cartridge off with a special tool. And then once we take that off, we put the new cartridge into the engine, and then we're gonna be doing, we're gonna be adding 0-20 weight. So this car has 180,000 miles, but the car is not burning any oil at all. So I keep using that 0-20 because there's no need for me to change it at this point to a thicker oil because it's not burning any oil. So I keep on the 0-20 even with 180,000 miles, excuse me, because I don't require high mileage at this point because I feel that this car still can be using 0-20. When you start changing the oil, the thickness of the oil is when you start looking at that is burning oil. Every time you take the measurements, there's less oil, so you change it to a thicker oil so it doesn't burn it as fast as the thinner oil. So but that's what we're using. I'm not a fan of any brand. I'm just using this Kirkland brand from Costco. We bought a case of 2 gallons, which was about $30, and so that's pretty good for full synthetic. So we're gonna be using this container. It's gonna probably take almost all of it. With that said, let's get started. So at this point, we have set up our oil pan right below the drain point, which is right there. And to take that drain point off, it's going to be a 14 millimeter socket, and we're going to loosen it up. We're going to drain our oil right into the oil pan. And what I have done, if a trick, if your oil pan sits too low into the ground once you lift your car up, but you still want to get underneath the car to work on it, what I done is I have put some pieces of wood, 4x4 and a 2x4, right below the oil pan. So when we're working on the car, we still got the room for it, but the oil pan is not too far from the oil and the engine, so the stream doesn't splash everywhere. So that helps to bring it up a little bit. So that's a trick you can do in case the oil pan sits too low into the ground where you're catching the oil. So that gives you a less gap between the motor and the oil pan, but you still got a room to get underneath the car. So that's one tip I can give you guys. So once you have drained all the oil out, be sure to put this drain point plug in and tighten it a little bit so it doesn't, if you don't tighten it with the vibration or driving around, it's gonna come out and all the oil is gonna drain out and you're gonna have major problems in your engine. So make sure you put that drain point back in and tighten it down. Not too tight, just gotta be snug or give it a little pull so it gets in there. So that's the oil filter or cartridge housing or cover, and for that, so you put this special tool on it, and then I use a 7/8 socket to spin that off with a ratchet, 3/8 ratchet, like that. So you took up your cartridge, your housing, and then the cartridge was inside, still draining some oil, as you can see. So this was right inside here, and then this is the housing that was bolted below on the motor that we had to take off with a special tool. So this is plastic. This whole unit is plastic except for this. This is aluminum. So usually what this does is that there's an O-ring around this. Change it every time you change the filter. It comes with it. So what the people do is they take this piece off to drain the oil inside the whole structure. But what I do, I go straight to take this whole unit off and drain it out. I don't, because aluminum and plastic, I don't want to damage this thread and then end up with the bad threads and this, and it's not going to seal. So I never mess with this. That's my own opinion. So I go straight with a tool and take it off completely out, so that way I drain the oil. And then the cartridge sits on this, and this is the piece, the plastic that comes in to drain the oil. Once you take this aluminum out, you push this in there, and then that's supposed to drain the oil so it doesn't go everywhere. But it's not that messy once you do it slowly. It just drains to the sides, and it's gonna land in the socket, and it's actually better to me. So I don't use that little plug that they sell. So it comes with a cartridge, and this cartridge is just like this, but as you can see the color. So this cartridge sits right in here, just like that, and then it comes with two O-rings. It comes with a bigger O-ring, which is the red one, is gonna be replaced, and the small O-ring that comes inside there is for the little cover that goes right here. This aluminum, it takes the O-ring right in between this and the plastic, but I don't change that because I don't mess with it. So I just change this O-ring. So we'll change this and we'll put it right back in. And I want to show you folks that once you use one O-ring and you take it off, if you want to put it back in, look at how much has changed. It has stretched itself. It's a good difference. See, the black one is the new one, and the red one is the one that we just took off. So it's being stretched. So don't use it. Recommend to change the big O-ring. Just wanted to share that. So the reason you want to put some oil around this O-ring is because if once you're tightening it into the block and then it starts pressing itself, compressing itself between the cap and the block, what it's going to be doing, pinching itself, and if it doesn't have lubrication, it's not going to slide. So you want to make sure that this slides as it's pinching itself into the block. So that's why. So we want to make sure that it's lubricated to put it back on. So we put the cartridge in and put it back in. I'm gonna show you how it looks without the cover of the cartridge. That's how it looks right there. So the only thing that seals around the whole thing is the O-ring, and you don't want to damage that. So that's how it looks right there without the filter or the cap. So we put it back in. So for this process, folks, you want to do is guide your filter, cartridge, cover, everything in, and then you want to start tightening it by hand. Make sure it starts threading because this plastic be against aluminum. So twist it all the way until it stops, that you cannot turn it anymore. And then once it's done, you can tighten it with a tool. The cover is plastic against aluminum on the block, so you want to damage the threads on the plastic. So now that we have threaded all the way to it until it stops by hand, we can tighten it a little bit so it's snug or a little tight, so that way the O-ring gets compressed and it seals. Okay folks, so we have drained the oil out, the old oil out, and we have put the new filter or new cartridge in. So at this point we're about to put the new oil into the engine, and remember to tighten your oil filter or oil cap for the cartridge and your drain plug, so that way you don't lose any oil and you have big problems in the future. So at this point we'll add the oil to the engine, and we'll keep measuring the oil with the measuring stick to make sure that we add the right amount of oil, so we don't add too much or too little. So we show you the replacement or the oil change on this 2010 Toyota Camry. We drain the oil, we put the brand new oil in there. Remember to check to tighten your plug, because the drain point, if you don't tighten it, you're gonna have problems in the future. So make sure that's tight, and the cartridge cap is tight as well. So replace the O-ring on that as well. We drain all the oil, so we put 5 quarts, and it took it all just to the top of the measurement on the dipstick, to make sure that you don't add too little or too much oil. You just want to be, we just left it right on the top, the maximum. There's 2 types of oil filters on these Toyotas. The 2007 2009 has the conventional oil filter, which is a metal housing. This 2010 has a cartridge, which has a cap, a plastic cap you gotta take off, and then you gotta take the old cartridge out, replace the O-ring on that cap, and then put a new cartridge in and put it back in. So there's 2 types of oil filters, so the newer and the older style. So once we change the oil on our Toyota Camry, what we have is this light on the dash that says maintenance required. So we reached 5,000 miles, and this light came on before 5,000, but it was blinking. At 5,000 it stayed on. So what we do is we have to reset the mileage on trip A. We like to do that, and once we reset that, we let that to run, and we start accumulating miles here, so we know how many miles we got on that oil, on that new oil. And also we're gonna have to reset that. To do that, we're gonna have to use this little push lever to reset the maintenance required light on this Camry. So to do that, we're gonna reset trip A and the light at the same time. So for us to reset the maintenance required light, we're gonna have to do 2 things at once. Or one thing, we're gonna press this, keep holding, and while we're doing that, we're gonna insert the key into our ignition and open the key to where the lights come on the dash. But remember, don't let off this little button. You're gonna have to keep pressing the button until this dash is gonna show some dots here going on, and that's gonna indicate that the reset is happening. So we're gonna show you what happens. So now we turn on our dash, and we see that the light maintenance required is gone. So we have 0 miles on trip A. So what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna leave that just for the miles that we're gonna be putting on to this oil change. So now we turn on our car, and the maintenance required light is gone because we reset it by doing it ourselves. So now we got a fresh oil, and that light is gonna come on about 5,000 miles, and that is, we're gonna be reading the trip A just for miles on how many miles we put into this oil. So this is how you reset the light too. It's part of the maintenance. And hopefully this video was informative and you find some of this info useful towards your next oil change on your Toyota Camry. With that said, we'll see you soon with more videos here on El Canal El Chano Jose.